Hey, it's Amy with intuitivecoachingwithamy.com. And we're going to talk about, is it really my intuition? Is it really my intuition? Is it really? Is it really? So, I'm going to give you some tips, some suggestions on how to know if it's really your intuition, which I can giggle at because I get that that's a question, right? Uh, but from my vantage point, it isn't really a question. But I get it's a question now, and I'm going to do my best to answer it. So, yeah, hang out. Let's talk about intuition a little bit. If you're new to this program, I'm an intuitive and a coach, and I help people create the life of their dreams. If you want to use your intuition more, if you really want to tap into this energy that's always available to you, then I want to help you. Information on my services can be found at intuitivecoachingwithamy.com. Book a session, consider a package, give me a call, let's have a conversation. Let's see what would be the right fit for you. Again, intuitivecoachingwithamy.com. And while you're there, sign up for my newsletter because it's amazing. You get 2 intuitive messages from me a week for free, plus bonus content that I only share with my newsletter list. Yeah, it's awesome. And it's free. Okay, let's talk about, is it my intuition? Is it my intuition? How do you know? Well, I think if it's not your intuition, it's going to sound harsh. It's going to sound critical. It's going to sound a little mean. I definitely think the intuition can be firm, and I definitely think the intuition can be wake up girl, you know? I definitely I think that's there, but the intuition is always loving, always kind, always seeking to meet you where you're at. And so sometimes maybe you might get a message that comes across that triggers your sensitivity, but that's not the intention. It may be that there's some work you need to do there and your intuition's helping guiding you. But if it sounds like a should, you should, you should have already, you know better, girl. That's not your intuition. But truth is truth. And so I would ask, is this my truth? Now, when you don't get accurate information, when you don't get accurate information, it's because, or you're probably getting the right message. Let's say you're feeling distressed about something and you start pulling cards, but your distress is blocking your clarity. So if you're in a low vibrational state, intuitive information tends to be pretty high vibrational. Again, it will meet you where you're at, but if you're so in that hole, I would say that's not the time to be reaching for your oracle card or your oracle. But it's also the time when you want to the most because you just want to get out of pain, where either you're feeling confused or overwhelmed or stressed out or um, disappointed. You'll reach for your oracle cards for some conclusions, and it's going to be difficult to give yourself a really accurate reading in that moment. It's not that the card isn't correct, it's that your perception of that card is going to be so skewed. And I'll be honest with you, in my personal journey, in in my Amy everyday life, when I read for other people, my intuition's rock solid because there's nothing binding, like it's my job, right? I just go into that space and I do my job. But in my own life, in my day-to-day experience, I'm a highly sensitive person, so I can be bombarded with so much that I'll reach for my oracle cards because I'm feeling overwhelmed or I'm feeling, or probably usually it's I've absorbed too much energy that is not my own, and I'll reach for my oracle cards and nothing makes sense. And so then even today, my ex-husband has a deck, and he and I were talking on the phone, and I was like, "Can you just pull me a card?" And he was, he read the card. I understood it intellectually, but it wasn't like giving me any sort of relief. And And it was, again, because it was the state I was asking in. I was tired. I definitely had absorbed too much energy. And like the fact that I responded that way, and I've been at this a while, so I knew, I'm like, oh, I'm off, right? Like I know there's great wisdom in that card. It was a very straightforward message. Beautiful deck too. It's a unicorn deck. It's not the unicorn deck that was created by Doreen Virtue. They don't sell that anymore. It's a digital deck, unicorn something something. Beautiful cards, beautiful messages. He has it. Like he bought it for himself. He found it. And anytime I get a moment with him, and I'm like, "Hey, pull me a card," cuz the cards are so good. So good in that deck. But and look for it. It's an app. I just bought it for my brother. I think it's like $7.99. Beautiful, beautiful deck. Great messages, so on point. Um, and so I knew, because that deck is very high vibe and I always appreciate its messages, the fact that I wasn't receptive to it meant that there was something going on with me. So what did I do? Because I think this is important too. If you're not being able to receive intuitive information as easily as you normally do, meaning you have like, oh, I totally get what that means. That makes sense. I totally understand, right? Many of you have maybe had a session with me and I've given you a piece of information and you're like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. Whew, yeah, that's, right? If that experience isn't happening for you, it probably means you are not in a state of receptivity. And so even as I say that now, I'm like, oh, spirit, I know exactly what was going on with me. So I can tell you now, like they show me very clearly as I'm saying this, that you've probably been giving too much, and it was. I just finished a draft of my novel, so I'd given like so much creative energy to that, and now I'm coming off of that, and I've just not felt like myself. And then I immediately went into the business side of it, meaning next it has to go to my book consultant. And so I sent that, and then there was energy around that, and then some energy around an early read on it, and it was just all too much too soon, right? So I didn't get a minute to turn off being in giving mode. So you might be in giving mode and you need to go into receptivity mode. You might have absorbed energy that's not your own. That's where, you'll need to do either a salt bath, really be mindful of your food, get some extra rest, cover yourself in a blanket of protection, um, cut cords. I probably need to cut cords with that draft as I think about it. Like draft 2, I need to cut cords because we've moved past it, right? I'm going into draft 3. Um, eh, eh, so cutting cords is a ritual I learned from Doreen Virtue. You call in your angels, your guides. Now I just wand my body because I know the whole process. I can do the prayer in my head and wand my body, but the step by step is you call in your guides, and then you ask that any lower vibrational cords be cut. You wand your hand in front of your body, and you cut those cords with the help of your guides, with the help of the angels, with the help of God, for your highest and greatest good. You breathe through it, feeling, knowing, believing that the cords are being cut, all the lower vibrational cords. And then you'll get your clarity back. So for me, what I did when I realized like, oh, I'm not being receptive to this message, even though it's a fucking great message, and it was, like, I'm still processing it because I'm coming back to myself. I went into meditation. I did a meditation. I took a nap. Um, I took care of some self-care type things, really returning back to self, returning back to center. I couldn't even record a podcast. And I was wondering, what is it? Right? And now I understand. So is it your intuition? Probably. Are you receptive to it? No. If you're in a heightened state, that's where you need to go and do a session with someone, with therapy, journal, clear out things, and then pull a card. Now, if you are getting a message and it sounds like a should, or it sounds really aggressive, or it sounds really mean, it's probably not your intuition, probably the devil. not the literal devil, but let's play with that character. Okay. And so then you just need to step back from it and say, I'm not receptive to that energy in my life, right? Now, the difference is between those mean messages, which also my spirit guides are jumping in, can be your inner critic. So there's many versions of it. I call it the goblin. I learned that from Colette Baron Reed. You can call it whatever you want. It's different for everybody. But usually it's similar process. You need to go through your feelings, get clear about who you are, where is that voice coming from, because it's definitely not your intuition. Intuition is repetitive, it's very matter of fact, it feels like truth, and sometimes like it will be a little it'll have a little spin on it just to get your attention, but it's only so much the space in which they have to operate. Like, so the messages are pretty clean. They much rather you get the message than they're not, spirit's not trying to be cheeky with you. And spirit's definitely not ever trying to fucking shame you or make you feel guilt, right? That's your stuff or some energy within you. And you just have to clean that up, look at it, release it, let it go, get clear about it. Like, this feeling is guilt. This feeling is shame. Okay, right? In the moment, no, you're feeling guilt and shame. So it's easy for me to describe from this vantage point. But in those moments, I get how you're feeling. You just have to acknowledge what the feeling is. Because the minute that you do, it has less power over you. And then you gain your clarity back. But when you're in the state of guilt, shame, worry, doubt, oh my God, you can't, you don't really have access to your God likeness because those emotions, those feelings are the opposite of God. Is God still there for you? Absolutely. So you can definitely start praying in those moments. If you know that you're in guilt and you're having trouble getting out of it, maybe you've had a conversation with someone and you're feeling a lot of shame, you're feeling bad about yourself, start praying. Just start praying and say, help me to see clearly. Help me to see clearly. Help me to see clearly. And then this is the piece my spirit guides gave me today as I was realizing I had absorbed all this energy. Do some shit to clean some shit up, whatever that is in your life, right? Maybe it is cleaning your kitchen. Maybe it is taking a shower. Maybe it is drinking some water. Maybe it is getting a nap. Do something to clear it out, right? Just don't sit in it, right? Clean, like spiritually, physically clean something so that you can spiritually feel clean again and see clearly. And then your intuition will make sense again. So, is it your intuition? Probably not if you're asking that. That's why I giggled at the beginning. Because your intuition, you'll just know. You're like, oh, hell yeah. Because that's the way it's designed. The intuition's doesn't show up to be questioned, right? It's not an intellectual debate. No, it's a piece of information that can help you do what you need to do in this lifetime. It's an answer to your prayer. And all you have to do is be receptive to it and then act on it. Got it? I love you. Intuition's amazing. Use it. Use it. But also know when it's not, right? And also know when you're not receptive to intuitive information. And just catch it. Don't ever be mean to yourself. Don't ever be down on yourself. Just be kind. The kinder you are, the more compassionate you are with yourself, the easier this all will be. Right? I overworked a little bit, or I'm feeling a little bit of guilt and shame, or somebody projected some energy onto me. I'm a highly sensitive person. That's gross. That's their shit. I'm not responsible for it. Right? So then you start to regain your sense of self, which is difficult for highly sensitive people who have very porous boundaries, who also probably are packing a whole lot of codependency behind all of this. Yeah, we can talk about it. Let's do a session. If you are looking for a coach, I would love to work with you. Intuitivecoachingwithamy.com. Sign up for my newsletter. While you're there, you'll get 2 intuitive messages a week from me, as well as bonus content that I would have probably shared in a class that I would have sold, but I don't want to do classes. I only want to work one-on-one these days. Yeah. I think that's everything. Trust it. Trust your intuition. Trust when you're in a state to be receptive to your intuition. It's always firing. It's always there for you. The signs are always there. Till next time, take care of yourself. Thank you for listening to this program.